Jean-Claude Van Damme. He always makes an impact. Now, get ready for double impact.
There's two of them. Think about it.
Van Damme times 2.
He looks exactly like you.
Me?
Twin brothers reunited on a mission.
Watch my back.
To avenge their parents' death. One packs a punch. One packs a piece.
Look good to me.
Together, they deliver double impact.
Excuse me.
From Hollywood to the Far East. On land. On sea. And in the air. They're damn quick.
Express service.
Damn cool. Damn hot.
So now what do we do?
That's what I love about you.
Van Damme times 2. Double the fun.
I would never in my life wear black silk underwear. I'm with you on that one.
And double the Van Dammage. Double impact.
Welcome to They Called Us a Movie, testing the strength of friendships one terrible movie at a time. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and other podcast services by searching They Called Us a Movie. We are part of the Main Damie Network. To find more from us, check out the website at themaindamie.com or on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at The Main Damie. We're also now a proud member of Geek Vibes Nation. You can find them at gvnation.com. Welcome back to They Called Us a Movie. This is Anthony Del Vecchio, and with me as always is Dan Aquino and Mark Myers. Say hello, gentlemen.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, guys. Do you remember when the British were a powerful empire? Pepperidge Farm remembers.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. I don't remember it, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I
I
was just the Sun might touch upon that.
I was just given a history lesson by you guys about it, so I didn't know. And this all happened under my nose. I had no clue.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I've read anything from Rudyard Kipling, so.
Yeah. That's what made me laugh at the beginning of this movie, but we'll get into it.
Yes. So, guys, before we get into this week's movie, if you've listened to the episode last week, we kind of started a new thing while we're under quarantine. So, guys, what are you watching in last episode and this episode?
So I started to watch Tiger King, and then I realized it was like rampant animal abuse. So I was like, well, I can't get behind that. So I turned it off. And then I switched on to Community because I found out that that's now on Netflix.
And then that had rampant animal abuse in it?
No, but there's a lot of racism in it from one actor specifically. But I realized that show, I liked that show. I used to watch it back in the day. It takes a little while to kind of gain any traction.
Sure.
So I'm only 3 episodes in, and I was watching it with my father-in-law, and I was like, oh man, I hope he likes it because I'm always seeking validation from anyone. So I was like, man, I hope he likes this, and he realizes that I'm a funny guy. And there was hardly any laughs to be had in the first 2 episodes. So now I feel like he thinks lesser of me.
Sure.
So thank you, Community, and thank you, Dan Harmon, for making the first 2 episodes really shitty. But yeah, that's what I've been watching for the most part. And then I watched our movie this week.
All right. What about you, Mark?
Yeah, so besides watching our movie this week, I don't know if it falls. Maybe I watched this and forgot to mention it last week. But I watched 3 of the documentaries on Vice, the wrestling ones, The Dark Side of the Ring.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched those while under quarantine. The Chris Benoit one, the Match Made in Heaven about Macho and Elizabeth, and the Montreal Screwjob. And then I've also recently I've just been playing a bunch of video games. Final Fantasy VII Remake came in, so that's been most of my free time. Just because essentially. As we were making a joke that basically I just go into suspended animation and then wake up for podcasts and streams. I want to get it done before the next Game Ball pod, just so I can have a little bit of a review on it.
So you're gonna try and finish it about 2 weeks time.
Yeah. Just to be like a true gaming journalist.
I didn't even think about that. You have the Final Fantasy. I was surprised that you were able to join us for this podcast.
Yeah, I literally just finished it right before we came on, like my session for the day. But yeah,
you're loaded.
Yeah. So and then also like we had the discussion like that I have to be doing something, but it's essentially I preparing for Stranger Damies and playing Final Fantasy and so not much time for me to really get the old movies fired up. The only thing I've been thinking about watching is something I've already seen, only because Anthony brought it up last week. Is I have a Blu-ray of Perks of Being a Wallflower, and that was my movie of the year 2012, 2013. I forget.
It might have been 2013. Or
Yeah.
no, it would have been 2012 because the main Damie started 2013 and that was on our first top 10 list.
Yeah.
I think it was like
Yeah.
6 or something.
Yeah, so I was thinking of watching that. But yeah, that's about what I've been doing. Do you have your letterbox thing open for?
I haven't watched much of note. We've been watching Ozark.
Okay.
We're getting pretty deep into that, so we're like halfway through the second season right now. So we got about a season and a half left. Still doing the Quarantine Days of Horror. Watched The Fog, John Carpenter's The Fog for the first time ever. And another shitty movie called Ghost Keeper, which was possibly the worst movie I've seen in a very long time. It's a movie that they literally ran out of money halfway through, so they had to kind of write the ending on while they were shooting because they had no money to do what they were originally planning to do. And just continuing doing the Friday the 13th movies. So watched the second one this past week. So this coming week, this Friday, I'll be posting a review on the third film. Also watched a shitty quote unquote documentary called Demon House starring Zach Baggins, the guy that does Ghost Adventures.
Okay.
That was terrible.
Yeah.
So just
I've
a lot
heard
of
that
shit.
name, but don't know anything about what
Zach
he does.
Baggins, he's like the guy from Ghost Hunters if he had like the charisma of a Chris Angel,
Okay.
sort of.
Is he like the third Property Brother?
I couldn't even tell you what the Property Brothers are like.
It's an old photo going around from when they first started. They have the three brothers, posing, and the third one looks like Chris Angel. He has the hair over the eyes,
gotcha.
sort of thing. So
Yeah, no, he's like a hot topic come to life.
Yeah.
This week, I suggested, and these guys agreed to go a little action heavy this week.
Yeah.
So we tapped our good friend Jean-Claude Van Damme, the Muscles from Brussels.
JCVD.
JCVD, and this is the second time we've watched a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, and this is the second time we watched a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie where he appears twice.
He really loves himself.
Yeah.
He likes playing a dual role. So this week we watched Double Impact from 1991. Gentlemen, where are you coming from with Double Impact? And how many times have you seen this previous, Mark? That's a good question.
Mark, do you want to go first?
I've only seen it a couple of times, and most of those have been like on basic cable, so I did not know about the gratuitous scene that occurs near the end. But yeah, this is probably one of the ones I've seen the least. Time Cop is the most because it's obviously probably his best movie. But yeah, I had kind of an idea what the story was. I forgot the setting, and it made me laugh immediately at the beginning of this movie. But yeah, so this one, as soon as Aunt suggested it, I was like, all right, yeah, we'll watch this. I haven't seen it in a long time, because it's not like one of their go-to JCVD movies, as we've all found out watching it. But yeah. So I realized that I had only seen the basic cable, and that's basically where I'm coming at with it. Is that I didn't remember much of it, but I did, at least remember that stupid part in the beginning when we first meet adult Chad. So we'll get to that.
Are you talking about the moment where we almost see labia?
Yeah.
Well, we definitely see camel toe, but not of
Yeah.
or is it? I think it's actually moose knuckle. Right.
We do get moose knuckle.
Yeah, I think that's the scientific term.
Yeah, probably because of the time period that I saw it and which basic cable I saw it on was probably an awakening at that point.
Wait, from Jean-Claude Van Damme or the
the lady?
Julie Strain is the aerobics students.
Subject?
Yeah.
So who would go on to star in a lot of softcore porn of the era?
No bikini movies, right?
No, earlier. Talking
Okay.
about I could pull it up, but Dan, where are you coming from?
I've never seen this movie. I actually thought we were watching Deep Impact. I got confused. So I was like, oh, why? Well, that's not very action heavy. I mean, it's more just it was kind of lame. But I was like, yeah, you know what, whatever. But then I saw that it was double Jean-Claude Van Damme, and I got super excited because I love Time Cop. So I was like, how could this be any worse? You know, like this will be just as good because again, you're getting twice the Van Damme. And I was very disappointed in this movie. We'll save it for the rest of the show, but yeah, Jean-Claude Van Damme can only pull off one thing, and that's playing Jean-Claude Van Damme. And in this movie, he tries to do two different Jean-Claude Van Dammes, I think, and it's really shitty. But
Tries to play his good and evil version.
right. It's not good. It's very. Does he have? I want to know, does he have any other movie where he plays a dual role? Is it just Double Impact and Time Cop?
Those are the only two I
might-
remember.
I think we might have run the gamut of Jean-Claude Van Damme in dual roles.
I think we need to bring that back. I think we need to get Jean-Claude Van Damme in another role where he plays two Jean-Claude Van Dammes. The world sorely misses that genre of movies, and I think he'd be down to do it.
Yeah. Julie Strain, star of Day of the Warrior, Heavy Metal 2000. She's also in Beverly Hills Cop 3 and Naked Gun 33 1/3, among a bunch of other softcore porn. She was a Penthouse pet.
Well, I don't think
And
Naked Gun 33 1/3 is porn, Ant.
No, I mean, but it could be. With that name.
It's true.
I had forgot to mention on mine that I had forgotten that Bolo is in this movie.
Yeah.
It was from my probably second favorite JCVD movie in Kickboxer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he was in Bloodsport.
Bloodsport, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Which is about kickboxing.
Honestly, I think when I was watching this movie, we would need to get a face-off between Nicolas Cage and Bolo. Because throughout this movie, Bolo makes some wild faces, man.
Yeah, he does.
It's pretty awesome. I would like to see them out meme each other.
Gotcha. Yeah, this is the first time I've ever seen this film. I think these are like the first two times I've ever seen Jean-Claude Van Damme movies. So when we've watched them on this podcast. I read on Letterboxd that it was basically Parent Trap meets Jean-Claude Van Damme, and I was not disappointed in that basically being exactly what this is. It's not as good as Time Cop. It's passable, I think, is what I could say about it. It's not particularly entertaining in terms of like, oh, that's hilarious. Let's watch that.
Right.
He's crazy. Oh, he's trying to do a weird accent with this one brother, and he's not pulling it off. So let's laugh at that. It's just, it's a run of the mill Jean-Claude Van. It's like middle of the road sort of thing.
Yeah.
The only thing of any interest is the fact that he's playing two parts, really, and it's he's barely playing two parts.
Yeah.
Really.
The only difference is haircuts, really.
That's really, and there are moments in the third act of this film where it's hard to tell who's who.
Yeah, when they get all sweaty and greasy, it's tough to tell which one is which.
Yeah. One sort of has bangs, the other one's got slick back hair.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the one is clean shaven and the other, Jean-Claude Van Damme, has just a slight stubble to him to let you know he grew up on the streets.
Yeah.
He's not all primpy like the first Jean-Claude Van Damme.
He grew up a block away from the guy that's eventually trying to kill him.
Right. But he still has the same accent.
So he still goes by the same name of the baby that disappeared out from Mr. Zhang.
Which makes no sense, right?
Yeah.
How would they know his name? How would he know his own name?
That's true.
He was 6 months old.
I guess the maid. We never find out who raised Alex. I'm assuming it was the maid. She was the one that saved him.
She dropped him off in an orphanage, it looks like.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Oh, that's why. I think it was a French orphanage.
Yeah.
So that's why he has the.
Oh, yes. Yeah, it
that's
is.
why he has an accent.
Because they rub that in by having him sing Frère Jacques.
Touche movie. You thought
Was that
ahead.
Alex or was that Chad?
I thought that was Alex.
Chad thinks he was born in France.
Oh.
Chad's Mr. Los Angeles, as Alex calls him.
Yeah.
But Frank raised him, telling him as he was his uncle, but he grew up in France or was born in France. And then he just he drops that bomb. I'm not your uncle and you weren't born in France. Let's go to Hong Kong.
Yeah, he doesn't soften the blow at all. He's not
breath.
he's like, hey, let's go for some ice cream. By the way, I'm not your uncle. Wah, wah. He lays that. Yeah, he drops it, man. Just like, stop calling me uncle. I'm not your uncle.
Not your uncle. You weren't born in France. Now we got to go to Hong Kong.
It's a lot to lay on someone.
What if he's just like, I don't even have a passport?
Well, I think this was...
It was the 90s.
Exactly. It was a different time where we didn't have to worry about travel as much. But
Yeah.
I think you still needed a passport.
I'm pretty sure you needed a passport. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some news I found out. There is another movie where he plays two roles, but
What?
not on the screen at the same time. It's called Maximum Risk.
Man.
That either sounds like a Steven Seagal movie or a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie.
Yeah.
That's a 50-50.
He plays a twin. One was murdered and the other one is seeking revenge.
Jesus, man.
Just
Who got murdered in France.
Does he also play dual roles in Sudden Death?
Well, he technically plays the goalie for the Pittsburgh Penguins in that movie. So.
Man,
No, that's the only other one.
fascinating.
Yeah, the
It's
fascinating
fascinating.
thing is that that one has Natasha Henstridge in it.
Oh, hey, friend of the show.
Yep.
To me, it's fascinating that directors keep allowing him to play dual roles.
Double the kicks, man. Double the Van Dammage.
Do you think he ever did a double mint commercial?
Maybe.
He
Maybe
would have
one
had to have, right?
in Brussels.
Yeah.
Got one with him when he was a kid, a teen.
That'd be great. I mean, that's such a huge opportunity right there. He's just like kicking the gum at the TV screen, right? He does roundhouse kick and it just flies at you.
Double Impact from 1991, is directed by Sheldon Leach. Really didn't do much else. I think he's the writer on Rambo 3. He had a lot of credits that were writing specific. I also think he was one of the writers on Bloodsport. But this stars Jean-Claude Van Damme, Jeffrey Lewis, Alana Shaw, Karina Everson, Philip Chan, Alan Scarf, I think, and Bolo Young. IMDb score of 5.6, Rotten Tomatoes score of 35%. Budget $15 million, box office $30 million, so about doubled its box office, its budget. This movie's it's okay. It didn't hurt to watch.
I think it didn't have. It had a decent premise, but it was set up very poorly.
Yeah.
It relies too much on Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Mm-hmm.
You can't do that.
Yeah, I think one of the things that they could have leaned into more is sort of that parent trap thing, because it really, halfway through they realize that they're dealing with two brothers, and it really doesn't matter anymore that they're twins.
Nope.
At that point. They could have just been brothers the entire time. Like, it could have been a different actor in one of the roles, and it would essentially be the same movie. There's that one scene where they mistake Chad for Alex, and I think it would have been more interesting if that played more into their plan or just became more of the plot. I think it's like, oh, maybe something happens to Alex, so Chad has to pretend to be Alex, you know?
Right. Yeah, I think it would have been a cool thing if they kind of switched plate, like Alex goes to
Prince and the Pauper style.
Right, right, because Chad he's very primpy, he's Mr. Perfect, so it would have been interesting to have Alex kind of switch that role, and now he's this street tough guy living high on the hog, and he doesn't know how to do it. Right. And meanwhile, Chad is fighting for his life in Hong Kong.
Or what if it's the reverse? Like, let's say Chad, prim and proper guy. Now he's got like these people after him. So in order to try and keep him safe, they switch roles with Alex, who's more streetwise and stuff, and Alex assumes Chad's role so he can handle himself if somebody comes in and is like, oh, I'm coming through your window, I'm gonna karate chop you to death. He's like, oh no, I know karate too.
Yeah.
I'm gonna do splits and I kickbox and fight, sort of like that.
You bring that up. This movie sorely lacked splits. There's only one split.
Again, this is what you said about Time Cop.
Yeah, there
Time
was
Cop
only
only
one
had
split.
one split.
Right.
Yeah, and
But
you
at
were expecting
least-
like 5.
But at least in Time Cop, the split mattered, right? Yeah. He does the split when he electrocutes the room, right, or something like that. I see that's a good use of a split.
I think there's a room full of women that split mattered too.
I don't know. Maybe they were paid to pretend it mattered.
They went home and they just went to town.
They jilled off.
They jilled off big time.
I don't know.
They wore out those D batteries.
I don't know. That we see a whole lot of Jean-Claude Van Damme through those tights.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, I don't. This is gonna sound weird, but Jean-Claude Van Damme has cake.
He's thick with 2 C's back there.
He is, man. He has a run for his money with that one henchwoman.
Oh, he has the second best quads in this movie.
That woman has quads for days.
She's Saquon Barkley of this movie.
Yeah.
And I looked her up. She's not really like I figured she was gonna be like a stunt woman.
Mm-hmm.
Not really anything. Like she had like maybe 15 roles or so in her career.
She looks like she could have been on American Gladiator.
Yeah. No, but that's in my notes. I think once or twice, just her quads.
Well, because when she walks at the camera, you get a good look at at it sometimes, and it's just like it's defined, man. Those quads are defined.
Yeah,
like,
because she's wearing shorts in that scene. She's wearing shorts, and just those quads are on display, where you just kick through a cement wall.
You're right, man. She could pound the rock for 100 yards. I'm sure of it. It was impressive.
25 touches for 150.
Yeah. I could see that, pushing the pile for the 1-yard touchdown.
Eddie George, remember in that one Super Bowl where his knee was down, but they totally called it a touchdown.
Yeah.
Against the Rams.
I think she'd stand. I think she'd be able to carry it.
Yeah.
She was impressive. She's a specimen. She's very, very, very weird though.
Yeah.
And she tries to be seductive. She tries to be seductive, and she's very heavy-handed, which I guess you can kind of expect with a woman who has thighs as big as all of our heads combined.
Oh yeah, and she tries to snap his neck with them.
I thought there was going to be a chance that we saw that at one point, where she would snap someone's neck, almost like Famke Jensen in GoldenEye. Yep. I thought we were going to see that, but no, she's just brute force stabs a dude.
Mm-hmm. That was a little disappointing. Like the size of her quads didn't play nearly as much into the movie as you think.
Right, and again, you waste a split, you waste some stellar quads. Those were savage, man. I want those quads.
Yeah. You guys.
It's just all wasted, essentially.
You were gonna say something, Mark?
I'm going through Jean-Claude Van Damme's trivia and stuff on IMDb, and it's kind of wild. Dan, you'll be happy to know this. He is an animal rights activist.
Ooh. I like him.
He also Steven Seagal, though.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you could still be an asshole and be an animal rights activist.
He also calls himself the Fred Astaire of karate.
Oh, there we go.
And apparently he thought Time Cop and Bloodsport could have both been multiple franchise movies that were very popular.
Well,
but the idiots, at first he said the idiots sold the Time Cop rights to television, and then the Bloodsport people just used second-rate kickboxers for the sequel.
Oh, damn.
Yeah.
That's pretty hard, man. Yeah, those are all hot takes, by the way.
Yeah. All of his quotes are hot takes. It's great.
Which I admire. Yeah. I mean, if you're known for roundhouse kicks, you're gonna have some hot takes, I'd imagine. You know.
Muscles from Brussels, just telling it like it is.
Yeah. That's why he's not employed anymore, I'd imagine.
I guess so. Has he been up to anything in a while, Mark?
He did JCVD.
That's like 10 years ago at this point, though, isn't it?
Let's see. The most recent thing. Oh, he's been in a couple. He was in a movie called Jean-Claude Van Johnson.
Okay.
In 2016.
His TV series.
Yeah.
It was a TV series where he plays 2 roles.
God, it never ends. I love it.
Yeah.
I think he does mostly like farcical things.
Yeah. Now he's doing like.
He's in Minions: Rise of Gru.
Yeah, it looks like he's doing the Bruce Willis thing, like where he just does action movies as an old guy.
Yeah.
You know.
I hope he pretends like he wants to be there more than Bruce Willis does.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard much about how Jean-Claude Van Damme was on set, but we all know that Bruce Willis was just a huge pain in the ass through most of his later years. Do you think Jean-Claude Van Damme was like that? Do you think he was tough to work with?
Bet you was tough to work with in his heyday.
Right.
Yeah,
and then he
some
got
of the trivia.
humbled.
Yeah, some of the trivia. He rejected a 3-film deal with somebody because he wanted $20 million a picture, like Jim Carrey.
Damn.
And that he rejected a role in The Expendables in 2010 because when he asked Stallone what the movie was about, he says, "Don't worry, you're going to make a lot of money." And he was like, "I don't want to hear that. I want to know what I'm doing."
He did wind up in The Expendables 2, though.
Yeah.
Do you think he walks into casting agents now and just says, "I'm the Fred Astaire of karate"?
No, he does a split.
He does split.
Do you think he just yells that wherever he goes?
Probably.
Because I would, honestly. I like how he did that, because there's no way that was taken by anybody. Fred Astaire of anything.
Yeah.
That's great.
That reference is going to be dated in a couple of years. Nobody's going to even know what that means.
Yeah, and apparently Time Cop was the movie he was paid the second most for, $5 million.
What was number one?
Street Fighter.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Which will probably be an episode before we finish this podcast one day.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got to finish out. We got to touch on most Jean-Claude Van Damme movies.
It's gonna happen.
Yeah.
We still haven't done a Seagal movie yet.
Yeah.
That's probably for the best. You know,
yeah, it could be.
He's more of a joke in himself, in and of himself, really. So there's really no need to touch on that.
I'll
shoot it down.
Do you guys want to get into the plot at this point?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Dan, you got anything to say?
I do. I'm here to tell you about our friend Tia, a good friend of the show. She's with Geek Vibes Nation. She has her own podcast that you should listen to. It's called The Top 10 with Tia, and you should check it out. It's a weekly podcast where Tia and her crew tackle a number of entertaining topics like the top 10 movies of the year or the top 10 worst on-screen couples. I think this past episode was the top 10 characters who had a resurgence or something along those lines, right? It was a resurging character arc. I haven't listened to it yet, but it's every week, and you should check it out. She's a great person. We have a lot of fun when we record for Geek Vibes Nation. So that's it.
All right. So we are going to take a quick break to listen to a couple notes from friends of the podcast. So we will be right back.
Hey everyone, this is Steve.
And this is Adam.
And we're part of the Hop Nation USA podcast,
Pittsburgh's #3 craft beer podcast.
Join us every Friday for new beer reviews.
We'll talk about the news, history, and homebrewing.
Plus, we'll sit down with the best brewers and industry personalities that'll have us.
So whether you're a casual drinker, a hazy boy hophead,
or even if you're a whale hunting cellar hoarder,
just search Hop Nation USA on Apple, Spotify, or your favorite podcatcher and join the nation.
Oh hi, didn't see you there. It's me, George, from the best little horror house in Philly, the show where we talk about the best horror movie ever made, according to our guest at least. We've talked about groundbreaking classics like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Alien, but we've also got a lot of great ones coming up, including some very fun guests like Len Kabaczynski of Swamp Zombies and Red Letter Media fame, Caroline Williams, the star of Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, and Chase Williamson from John Dies at the End. So make sure you're subscribed to the best little horror house in Philly, and I'll see you boils and ghouls over there.
And welcome back, and now it's time to get into the plot for Double Impact. We open 25 years in the past in terms of this movie on a dedication ceremony for the Victoria Harbour Tunnel in Hong Kong. Again, as we mentioned, the idea of a British-controlled Hong Kong immediately dates this movie.
Yeah, and I had completely forgotten about that this was the setting for this movie.
We have two Brits, Paul and Nigel, who are basically responsible for this tunnel project, and in attendance for the ceremony is Paul's wife and his infant twins, Chad and Alex. The night on the way home, Paul and his wife have someone following them in their car, and Paul's bodyguard, Frank, has been sent home for the day, but they have car phones, and Frank realizes that Paul's in trouble, so he goes racing to try and get to Paul before anything happens. At their home, a group of Asian men in suits get out of the car that was following them and start firing into the car. Frank, as I mentioned, is driving, but he's late. Paul is killed. His wife is killed. The maid manages to escape with one of the babies while Frank leaves with the other. Frank shoots a lot of gang members, manages to shoot out the eye of one of the henchmen, who we'll later know as Mr. Moon, but he also gets shot in the process. While fleeing, though, Frank identifies Griffith, one of the business associates, is in the vicinity, and he manages to steal away with the baby, as the maid has as well. And then we flash forward 25 years later. Chad is working as an aerobics karate instructor, and then we nearly get a shot of a woman's labia, as we mentioned, as he helps her stretch, and that stretch is not a euphemism. He's actually helping her aerobic stretch. And then we also get to see Jean-Claude do a split in skin-tight pants, and all his aerobic students just about soak the floor.
Is this the first instance of a Chad in a movie?
It might be.
Yeah.
He definitely lives up to that name as well.
Yeah. All those women just sploosh on the floor.
I think one of them faints.
Yep.
Just like, my stars.
Yeah.
It's pretty gratuitous.
Yes. Then Frank comes in, who hasn't aged really that much in 25 years, and tells Chad that he needs to take over the karate class. Then Chad immediately knocks out a cocky dude with a ponytail. And then meanwhile, Frank meets with an Asian man who has pictures of a man that looks just like Chad in Hong Kong. And then Frank calls Chad in his office and tells him they need to go to Hong Kong. He also tells him that he's not his uncle and he wasn't born in France. And they're on a plane to Hong Kong immediately.
This movie, we get to it in the exact next scenes, has the quickest, let's just get the plot out. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. It's okay, now action.
Yeah. You can kind of admire it just for getting to the point, but it's done so like ham-fistedly that it really doesn't give you a second to breathe and realize what's going on. Like, we're in Hong Kong now. Okay. I didn't even realize where we were to start.
Yeah, it took me 2 tries to realize that he's in LA.
Yeah, I had no clue. Like, we'll change the scenery, I guess. Awesome.
It's like a Bond movie.
It does have a lot of Bond-esque stereotypes. So I think they might have been trying to go for a Bond feel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once in Hong Kong, Frank takes Chad to a mahjong parlor, and some of the patrons seem to recognize Chad. The bartender gives him a drink just the way he likes it, as he says, and a patron gives him a handful of cash as if he owed him. Then a beautiful blonde shows up and entices Chad to come into the back room with her. He follows, and then she acts like she knows him, complimenting him on his new clothes and haircut, and then immediately sticks her hand down his pants to feel his silk underwear. And then a guy grabs him by the shoulder, turns him around, and it looks just like him. And then that guy knocks him out with a headbutt. And when Chad wakes up, Frank tells him that the guy is his twin brother, Alex. And if nothing else, this movie improves on the separation conceit of The Parent Trap. We now realize why they were separated, as opposed to The Parent Trap, where it was just, we're divorced, pick your favorite kid, and then be on your way.
I do like how Alex yells at his girlfriend for sticking her hand down Chad's pants. How could you not know? Like, what do you mean? It looks just like him. That's not fair. Come on.
I would never wear black silk underwear, is his comment.
And I would never wear bright pink shorts.
Yeah. He looks like a tourist.
Yeah.
I mean, they definitely do have very different styles in terms of clothing and just overall appearance. But if you're going to pick one thing to nitpick about, it can't be silk underwear. Because, come on.
It's like her hands are already down his pants at that point.
Right. The worst has been done at that point. So if you're going to blame her for not noticing something, maybe notice that he's wearing super short shorts that are definitely not what Alex would wear. I mean, he's like a biker dude pretty much.
It's like saying, like, how could you not know it was me? My dick is so much bigger than that.
They mention their dicks a decent amount in this movie.
Yeah.
They're technically only talking about one dick.
Right.
You know, it's just Jean-Claude talking to himself about his own.
But it's strange because he mentions, like, you have, when she sticks her hands down his pants, and it's like, You have a surprise. It's a huge surprise, which kind of tells me that it's not that big, because you really don't have to go. It's what is it? You're not the king if you have to say you're the king.
Right.
You know, right. So I think you're overcompensating there.
And then he has that really weird moment in the Asian market.
Right, after we see a frog's fucking head chopped off.
What's it gonna do?
That,
make my dick bigger?
Right.
Like it was like, oh, that was weird.
I don't think any of us expected him to say that.
So Frank gives them the lowdown on Griffith's involvement with financing the tunnel and a secret loan he took out with the Triads. And once the tunnel was completed, their father's expertise of tunnel construction wasn't needed by the Triads, so that's the reason why they had him killed. Also, as I mentioned, why has Alex been hiding in plain sight under his given name in the city his parents were killed, just like Luke Skywalker on Tatooine?
I didn't even think of that.
So then after this, Alex takes Chad and Frank on his boat while he conducts some business. Another boat docks with them, and they exchange a couple of Mercedes with a trunk full of cigarettes for cash. Then the authorities, I suppose the Hong Kong equivalent of the Coast Guard or something, shows up with a and the sales partner think Alex turned them in, so they fight until they wind up knocking the other dudes off the boat. Then a boat chase ensues between Alex's boat and the police. To shed weight, Frank and Chad push both Mercedes off the boat and then explode them in order to keep the police boats off them.
Which makes no sense, really, if you think about it.
Yeah.
The police boats could have easily have just gone around them.
I guess they're too close. Don't make it.
It's a big ocean.
It was only a harbor.
It was still pretty spacious. It didn't look like they were tight, you know. Like, oh my God, there's 2 cars on fire. What should we do? We were never trained for this.
We're strictly sea police. So.
I guess we have to turn this boat around. We'll get them next time.
Then at the market, we learn that Danielle, Alex's girlfriend, has been working for Griffith for 5 years. This is where we get to see the frog get his head chopped off. As I mentioned to Dan, who is, it seems like they were at the Asian market and they're just like shooting B-roll and they managed to capture that. Doesn't really seem like they were just like, let's chop some frogs' heads off.
I hope that's what it was.
Yeah.
And like you said, it did make me feel a little better that it's just B-roll.
Yeah.
I'm starting to question if whether or not you know this ahead of time, because we seem to be watching a lot of movies where bad things happen to animals.
I swear I did not. As soon as I saw it, I was like, he's going to mention this.
This is strike 2, all right? Next thing you're going to want us to watch Cannibal Holocaust. Like, I didn't know that they eat a turtle and a pig there. I didn't know, Dan. I'm sorry.
Again. I'll never
Spoilers, Dan.
That's the only thing I took away from that movie.
So they, why did I scroll up already? Where am I? So
we know that Danielle works for Griffin,
yes,
right? And they're in the market,
yes,
and she storms away.
Yeah. So then Frank appeals to Alex that Alex could be making money off the tunnel. He's like, it's your birthright, more or less. This is what he's saying. So then Chad takes a cab back to his hotel, where a bunch of Triad guys show up in some Mercedes, who mistake him for Alex, and they put him in a car where he meets Alex's employer, who is not happy with the loss of the cars. Yeah. He gives Chad. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, my one issue with this scene is that they know that people are after them, but yet for some reason they split up, Frank and Chad.
Mm-hmm.
Why is he going back to the place alone?
Yeah, I don't know.
They do this numerous times throughout the movie.
I wonder if it's just stupidity where it's just like, well, they're not after me. They're after my brother.
Which is very possible. I mean, Chad he's kind of an idiot.
Yeah, he's a big dumb baby.
He is.
So yeah, he gets put into the car. Zhang is Alex's employer. He gives Chad a cigar box to hold with the initials PDW on it. And then Chad recognizes it as his father's initials, recognizes the story, and the letter will coincide with the story Frank told him about his dad. And then the cars arrive at an empty lot, and Zhang tells Chad about a shipment coming into the harbor. The only thing he has to do is pick it up. Then Chad tells him to go fuck himself. And then Zhang sicks his thugs on Chad, and he starts kicking some ass until Mr. Moon shows up, and then who is Zhang's right-hand man, and he steps up and just destroys Chad, tossing him around in an empty shipping container, and just really just getting the best of him.
Bolo.
Bolo. So Chad gets dumped back at his apartment and relays the story to Frank and Chad. Chad tells Frank he's now in on the plan to get his birthright back from the Triads, as is Alex. Meanwhile, Danielle starts doing some digging into the Victoria Harbor project at work. She gets caught by some other woman named Kara, starts questioning what she's doing. And she's like, nothing. Bye. I'm supposed to be here. Ask Mr. Griffith. Bye.
Bye.
Peace.
Deuces.
Yeah.
And then Danielle calls Alex to relay what happened, but she couldn't find anything because someone walked in, meaning Kara. Alex said he's taking Chad on a fishing trip. So Alex takes the boat to some sort of abandoned island with an abandoned hotel where they plan to stay. Chad is not pleased with the arrangements. Alex isn't so sure about how Chad is going to fare into the fight with the Triads. We get a lock and load scene where we get to see the guys look over all the weapons that they have at their disposal. Their plan is to interfere with the shipment Zhang told Chad about. So Thursday night at the dock is when it's going down, and it's a stealth mission with Alex leading the way, killing dudes with a flick of his wrist. Eventually, a gunfight ensues, thanks to Chad's itchy trigger finger. So we get a long, drawn-out scene where guns go off, Alex dual-wielding, and gangsters all with machine guns, sometimes from 6 feet away, so they're adhering to social distancing. And Chad has some sweet rolling on the floor moves, where he rolls as he shoots his gun.
It's a terrible roll, by the way. It's so deliberate and so slow.
So slow. This guy, and shooting with his guns above his head.
I wouldn't recommend doing that.
No. Someone nearly shoots Chad, but Frank picks him off with a sniper rifle. They wind up stealing a truck, and Frank blows up the dock with a well-placed C4 charge. And as they drive away, Alex tells Chad that he fucked up the mission because he had an itchy trigger finger. And on a ferry, Alex tells Danielle to continue looking into Griffith. She tells him that Mr. Griffith is going to a party at a club owned by Zhang that night. So at Zhang's, Mr. Griffith lays out for us, the audience, what the plan is. Now that the U.S. Department Drugs Enforcement Agency is cracking down on drugs from South America, they plan to fill the void from Asia with a new boat that they acquired. So Alex shows up at the club and gives a case of cognac to a ponytailed henchman. And Mr. Griffith tells all the other guys about the explosion at the factory and says that it might have been work from someone on the inside. One of those guys at the table gets killed by Kara with an ice pick. And then I mentioned just in my notes, look at the quads on Kara.
Just underlined several times, quads. I'm telling you, for our listeners out there, you really have to see these quads. Like, we're not underestimating them or we're not overplaying it. No. I would say they're something to behold.
Yeah, I literally wrote down in my notes, look at the quads on Kara. I don't write that for anybody else. That this woman's made me stop and point out to myself, holy shit, the quads on that woman are incredible.
Especially, I feel like for a movie, because this came out in 1991. Like, when was the last time prior to that where you saw a woman with just like quads that could crush a watermelon, man?
Yeah, they're cracking walnuts with those babies.
So I would love if anyone listens to watch that and just get back to us and just like tell us like, yeah, those are awesome.
Yeah. So Chad heads in from the back, walking around with another case of cognac. I don't really know what their plan was at this point.
I am confused as well.
So
I think it's just Chad fucking up again.
Yeah. So I guess the cognac boxes really have bombs in them. So I'm pretty sure that they're okay with casualties of innocent people at this club.
Well, the thing that bothered me about this scene was how readily they were to accept a gift from a guy they just beat the shit out of like the day before. Like, oh, okay. Like, I don't think you're going to plan any sort of vengeance on us after we left you for dead. Thank you for the gift. No, a marked box. What's in it? I don't know.
Yeah.
Terrible security. Right? Like, you think that you would like open the box.
Yeah.
This doesn't feel like bottles of liquor.
Yeah, they're not banging around in here.
Exactly. Man, those are packed good, huh?
Right. I mean, then again, the guy who I guess was like head of security for Nigel was he has a ponytail, so you really can't.
Decision making is not the best.
Exactly. You get what you pay for.
Yeah. So Chad heads in the back, walking around with a case of cognac. Zhang sends his men to bring Chad, who they think is Alex, into the back to quote-unquote thank him. And then before that happens, Frank sets off a C4 charge in one of the boxes, and the scene devolves into some karate action. Alex breaks a glass with his bare hands for no reason, and they fight some dudes, and then eventually they leave. But Zhang and Griffith then realize there are two Jean-Claude Van Dammes. And then they realize what they're dealing with. Next day at the office, Danielle gets caught by Kara, the woman with the quads. Says she has to frisk her. And it's a little sexual assault here for the audience here.
Yeah.
Danielle calls the guys and gets Chad. Says she found something in the files. Griffith and Zhang are listening to the whole conversation. And Chad says that he's going to get Frank and Alex, and he's going to meet her at Alex's apartment. But Chad searches for all of like 2 minutes and can't find either of them, and then takes the boat on his own to go meet up with Danielle.
Yeah.
Mark, were you going to say something?
I was going to say, I think this is the moment where you can tell Danielle is probably not the smartest person in the world.
Sure.
Let me call from the office phone.
Yes.
To tell him what's going on.
And neither is Chad, really.
Yeah.
Because Alex would probably know better.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, she mentions that she shouldn't be doing it. Like, I can't tell you this over the phone, meaning she knows that she's probably being listened to.
Yeah.
And she continues to talk.
I can't really tell you this, but here's everything that I'm going to that I can't tell you.
Yeah. What are you doing, lady? That's not how you do it. That's not how you relay sensitive information. You got to figure out. You call from a public payphone or something.
Yeah. Exactly.
So Frank and Alex are stuck on the island while Chad goes to meet up with Danielle. Chad meets up with her, but Zhang's men show up right after, trapping them inside. Luckily, Danielle knows a secret way out, so they escape through a back alley with a couple of guys chasing after them.
The one thing I'm gonna mention, I don't know if you guys noticed this, but when he kicks the door open, you can clearly see it's a set. Like he kicks it open, and there's like a wall frame, like a 2x4 thing. Sort of like the back of another set.
It would have been great if he kicks the door open and there's like a Teamster there, like eating a donut. Like, oh shit.
Yeah, it looks like the camera was like in the wrong position.
Gotcha.
You know, like it shouldn't have been shooting out the door.
Right.
When he kicks it, but it's like real quick. It was like the editor, you editing video before, and it's probably saw that and went, "Fuck, I can't cut it anywhere."
Right. Did you get coverage of him kicking the door from the other side?
Yeah, we need. No? Fuck. Okay, hopefully nobody notices.
This shit's on you guys.
And that's why this movie bombed.
That made him its money back, plus.
Oh, did it?
15 million budget and made 30.
30, okay. Well, to be honest, with all of the promotions and everything, probably didn't. I don't know. I have no idea how it works.
I think you're supposed to like take like $5 million out. So
I'm just kind of going off
$20 million budget.
I'm kind of going off what everyone says about Birds of Prey. Like, oh well, it was only filmed for like 50 million and it made X amount of like 80 million, so it made its money back. Well, no. First of all, you have to take into account promotions and who knows? How do these people know?
Yeah.
They work for studios apparently. I have no idea.
Yeah, right. Everybody is great at predicting box office numbers.
Yeah.
So they get chased through the market and to the pier. Eventually they make it back onto the boat and get away to the nick of time. Kara and some goons jump into a helicopter, which is just waiting for them already.
Yep.
They have trouble finding the boat amidst a lot of harbor traffic, and eventually they kind of track it down. Danielle undresses on the boat just because.
Yeah.
I guess they jumped into the water, I guess, was the conceit of why she had to take her clothes off.
That was a point where I was just like had a little when it happened, and she comes downstairs and for no reason just drops the towel.
Yep.
Like there was like a quota. They were like, all right, we need to have boobs in this movie. So you're gonna come down here and just drop the towel right here.
Yeah. It's like we gotta show boobs within the first hour, or else we're gonna lose people. So 55 minutes towel drop.
They pushed it to the limit. I mean, I appreciated it. I was surprised, and I was like, oh, here we go. Now it kind of brought me back in. So they knew what they were doing.
They knew, man. They were just leaving the steaks on the grill just long enough.
Exactly. Yeah, they're no fools.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was quality boobage. So
yeah, Very
That's
good
what this
looking
movie-
woman. I don't even
Yeah.
really know who she is or where else we ever would have saw her.
Yeah,
but
she didn't do much.
yeah,
I
from
feel
what I
like she
saw.
would have been like on Married with Children or something like that.
sure there's like the one episode that she was on.
Right. Right, like
somewhere.
Bud tries to hit on her and she just like calls him a nerd or whatever, a geek, and just like throws him out the window or something like that. You know how it goes, guys.
Yeah, that's not her. But anyway, so yeah, then meanwhile, Chad is chugging Johnny Walker Red Label, and the helicopter eventually makes it to the island and sees Frank, and then heads back to report to Zhang, and Danielle is downstairs going to change, and I guess Chad has some sort of psychic connection with Alex.
Is that what it is?
Yeah, I guess so. So Chad isn't chugging Johnny Walker Red Label. Alex is
It's
chugging
Alex, yeah.
Johnny Walker Red Label back at the hotel because now he's imagining his brother fucking his girlfriend, and it is a very specific imagination. Like he even recognizes the clothing line on below deck. Oh, they're gonna use that to fuck. You know it.
He has such a great meltdown, Alex.
Yeah.
Motherfucker.
It's like Tommy Wiseau at the end of the room.
Yeah, exactly.
It's such a good mental down, and you're right. He does have a very vivid imagination of what his brother's doing to his girlfriend, because he's got her in like
position.
Right. Like I would hope that if that was happening, well, I guess if you're going to that level, you really have to over exaggerate it, right? If you're Alex, like he's better than me at this or whatever. I have no idea, but if I was imagining my twin brother banging my wife, I would hope it was just like missionary. Like, please let it only just be like real boring sex. But no, like, in Alex's eye or his mind, Chad is a fucking dynamo.
Yeah. Acrobatic, man.
Oh yeah.
Just standing up. Now he's like carrying around, pile driving her.
Yeah, he's very
Boston
good.
Crab.
He's good at the sex.
Yeah.
Chad is which with the name like that would probably be contrary to what he's good at, I'd imagine. He's more braggadocious about sex, right? Because he talks about how big his dick is. Like, is this gonna make my dick grow bigger? So I would feel like he's very insecure during sex, Chad. Like, he's very shy about it.
Or maybe he's just the opposite. He just like fucks and doesn't give a shit. Like, I got
whatever,
mine, basically.
whatever, still smashed.
Yeah, like, I got mine, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
It was the best 2 minutes of your life.
So then Chad shows up back on the island, and Frank is pissed because now he has to get rid of the boat and says, "You've got some explaining to do." So now,
Some explaining to do.
because Alex is in Frank's ear talking about how he's fucking my girlfriend.
I wish Frank would have said that. Like, yeah, Alex thinks you just like fuck Danielle, so you got to figure that out real quick.
He could have warned them. I know he says you got some explaining to do, but it's like could have been like, dude's fucked up and he's out for blood.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We know that Alex is a hothead, and you just came back with his woman. You think maybe, Frank, you should be there to kind of referee the situation a little bit, you know?
Yeah.
But no, he bolts.
Fires a gun.
But not in full Bolton. It's like, gotta go get rid of this boat. Bye.
I don't want to be there for this.
So Chad walks into the hotel with Danielle to a drunken Alex who's pissed because he assumes they fucked. He slaps Danielle right across the face. Chad kicks him in the face. Then Chad and Alex fight up the stairs and fall over a balcony. Frank eventually comes in, fires a gun in the air to stop them, and then Chad uses the F word.
He does.
No, Alex uses the F word. Alex uses the F word.
The asshole.
He'll always be an F.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a slang for, you know.
I think we know.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I think so I may be drunk, but tomorrow I'll be sober, and he'll always be an F word.
The hero of the story, ladies and gentlemen. Slapping women and using slurs.
Yeah, I keep screwing up their names because they're both Jean-Claude Van Damme.
It's okay. They're the same person essentially, even in the movie.
The brothers both say they don't need each other, and Alex goes storming off. No, Chad goes storming off, saying he's going back to L.A. and runs off. This part of my notes, I kept swapping them. I kept getting it wrong every time. So the next morning, Alex wakes up on the beach and sees a bunch of thugs storm the beach and Kara's helicopter in the air. Then the thugs storm in the hotel and start shooting the place up. They take Danielle hostage, and Alex does some beach cleanup, if you know what I mean. Starts killing off these thugs left and right. Zhang arrives, asks where the twins are, and Frank says fuck you and gets punched. Zhang says they're going to bring back Danielle to Griffith. Meanwhile, Chad and Alex are taking out a bunch of goons separately, sometimes with kicks, sometimes with guns.
Mostly kicks.
Mostly kicks.
I was going to say there's a really bad punch to kick ratio in this movie. I think Chad just knows how to kick. It's all he does.
That's all he does. Alex eventually winds up with a really big gun, and Alex and Chad eventually meet up back with one of the goons tied up. We're going to ask him some questions. Griffith arrives at the dock with Zhang and Kara, where Frank and Danielle are already taken captive. Mr. Moon is giving Frank a good once-over. And then Zhang asks if Frank is going to talk, which to me is odd because the only thing they could possibly need to find out is the location of the twins, when in reality, the twins are probably going to come to them because obviously that's the reason why you would take Frank and Danielle hostage in the first place.
Yeah.
Good point.
Chad and Alex sneak onto the boat with the old fake prisoner routine, which never works in D&D.
Nope. Gotta roll better.
That's very true. Yeah, most of the time in the movies, the guards roll very low perception.
And then Chad and Alex start making their way through a bunch of faceless goons, shooting, kicking, punching. Then Griffith gets on the PA system to let the twins hear them torture Frank. Then more gunfighting. Chad gets to one of the PA boxes to tell Griffith that he's a dead man. Then Alex gets into a fight with a goon with spurs in the pitch black, which is kind of a cool scene from a cinematography standpoint. But it's like the weird oddball scene where they tried to stylize it a little bit.
And it winds up not being that good of an action scene.
It's very short.
Yeah, he catches him and he just like punches him a few times, and he flexes on the last punch. Did you notice that? He punches, he's like, ah. He does like he kind of does that. I'm trying to think of what do you call it? He flexes.
Yeah.
He gives a good flex, and you see it in the shadow.
Meanwhile, Chad takes on Mr. Moon. Mr. Moon picks up a barrel of flammable material and tries to crush Chad with it, but Chad kicks him in the dick and then gets out from under it. And then Chad and Mr. Moon then take off their shirts and fight like real men.
Mr. Moon, by the way, has great form when he picks up those barrels.
Oh, yeah.
His clean and jerk, perfect. The back is straight, uses his legs, good height.
And this is Chad's boss fight. Mr. Moon tries to crush him with another flammable barrel, but Chad jumps over him and then kicks the shit out of him until he kicks Mr. Moon into an electrical box, killing him. Then everything explodes. Alex rescues Danielle from a henchman that may or may not try to rape her. And then Kara comes out of nowhere and tries to crush his head with her epic quads.
I really hope that we emphasize the quads in our posts this week. These things need to be shown. They need to be seen. The world needs to see these quads.
She also grabs his dick at one point and he slaps the shit out of her.
Yeah.
And then she comes at him with a knife. Alex eventually wrestles the knife away from Kara and stabs her in the stomach. Then Griffith and Zhang make a break for it. Chad and Alex chase after them. Chad goes after Griffith while Alex goes after Zhang on a cargo ship. Alex starts climbing up a crane while Chad and Danielle almost get crushed by a shipping container. And as he gets up to the top of the crane, Alex gets sprayed by a fire extinguisher by Zhang. Then Zhang reveals a dagger in his walking stick and starts trying to stab Chad, but Chad manages to dodge and sticks Zhang's hand in a couple of gears and gets crushed. Chad turns on a machine while Zhang is monologuing, and Zhang falls from the crane to his death. Meanwhile, Chad gets Danielle to safety and then jumps off the cargo ship to avoid the shipping container. And then Griffith starts monologuing at the water at Alex and starts shooting at it. But then Alex jumps into the forklift behind Griffith and drops a shipping container on him.
That was so funny.
I want to say
pops. Go ahead.
I want to say I think you flipped them again.
I told them
Chad goes after Nigel.
And Alex goes after Zhang because he says that's mine.
Yeah. Chad jumps into the forklift behind Griffith and drops shipping container on him.
Yeah, Chad pulls an Undertaker.
Yes.
It's so funny. Oh, I laughed out loud in that scene when he pops out of the darkness of the forklift and he yells the guy's name. Oh, that was the best part of the movie. I could watch that. Yeah, I could watch that scene 100 times.
Then Alex and Chad hug, and Chad pushes Danielle towards Alex, who then they hug, and then Frank shows up coming from wherever the hell he was stuck in, and then they give a big old OK sign. Freeze frame ending.
Right. What a terrible way to end on a freeze frame with just one of the Jean-Claude Van Dammes giving the OK sign.
I texted
Why not
Aunt,
both of them?
I texted Aunt in all capital letters, freeze frame ending, as soon as it occurred, because I didn't want to spoil it for you. So I did put it in the group chat.
This is
easily the worst freeze frames we've seen.
This is one of the first in a long time. But yeah, not a great one.
I wanted the end to be Alex and Chad fighting to the death over Danielle.
Like Double Dragon.
Like Double Dragon.
Yeah. Like they kill Shang. They kill, it's Nigel, right? They kill Nigel or Griffin, which is a super British name, by the way. That's like the most British name ever, Nigel Griffin. Yeah, I wanted it, like they kill both of them and they meet. Their eyes lock and Danielle shows up. And then it's just like Mortal Kombat styles. Round 1, fight. And then they just go at each other, and it's just nothing but kicks, really. just constant kicking. And then, Alex probably kills Chad and then just like asserts his dominance, bangs Danielle on Chad's body.
But it's still not as good as the sex that he imagined them with. So he takes his own life.
It haunts him forever. I'm not as good as Chad, am I? I keep telling you we didn't do anything. Don't lie to me.
But she is giving like a look like she wants something to happen on that boat.
She does give that like little like side glance kind of thing when she's walking away.
Yeah, she's like, oh, I hope he doesn't come down right now because I don't know what'll happen.
Right. Oh no, my towel seems to have fallen. I wish someone was here to pick it up. But
she was hoping. So who knows? They might have done it. They might have banged, maybe missionary, but
I wish that would have been such a great cutaway if you have, like he follows her down and we cut back to I can't even get it out without laughing. We cut back to Alex and he's having his meltdown and he's imagining Chad just doing all these exotic, really difficult poses. And it cuts back to Chad and it's just like super boring.
One pump missionary. Very unsatisfying for Danielle.
There's no music playing in the background. It's just and that's it.
It just becomes uncomfortable after a while.
Yeah, you just see the look of disappointment on her face.
She immediately regrets it. It's like, man, I wish I could undo the last 15 seconds of my life.
Oh, it's so good. I'm actually crying. Holy shit. But yeah, I would have paid good money to see that cut.
And that's the end of Double Impact. What do you guys think? What would you do to make this better?
I think we just made it so much better.
Yeah. That's sexy.
I like the idea of oh my god, I need to catch my breath. I like the idea of like totally swapping places. You could keep it action oriented, but yeah, I think having Chad kind of have to fend for himself on the streets of Hong Kong while Alex is trying to get accustomed to this very bougie lifestyle would be a pretty interesting take on it. But yeah, I just like the idea. It just plays over and over in my head now where Alex is just imagining Chad banging, like just going to town on Danielle. And it's really just terrible sex that's being had on the boat. That's what my mind keeps going to. Yeah, and maybe afterwards, like he's talking to Danielle about it, and like, listen, he was terrible. It was the worst I've ever had. Thank God that I'm with you. And it just really makes Alex feel better about himself, and because he was all down about it, right? He's like, yo, my brother's banging my girlfriend, and he's probably awesome at it. Like, no, he was pretty bad. Like, you're way better than him. Like, oh, all right, well, at least now I know for sure. Could you imagine being compared to your twin brother, by the way? Like, which one of us was the better lay? That's got to be kind of awkward, right?
Yes.
I hope, if I have kids, I hope that I don't have twins, first of all, because that's a nightmare. But I hope if I do have twins that they're never compared by the same woman. Because I don't want to wish that on them.
If that woman's smart, she tells them they were both great.
Yeah, I get it. Because then you could just keep going at that forever, right?
Yeah. Unless if you're all in the same room, then it just becomes awkward, and she should just walk away at that point.
Well, then they can't occupy the same space, and then you never know.
Yeah, it could be a time cop situation.
I wish real twins acted on time cop logic. Like the twins can never be in the same spot at the same time. They can't go to the same school.
They can never hug.
Yeah, they can never hug. It's a life of misery for twins, really. I've never known what it's like to embrace my brother.
Dan, if you wind up for some reason having twins, you could raise them to think that.
How great would that be? I mean, I'd be the shittiest. I'd be the shittiest father ever. Like, no, you can't touch each other. You'll disintegrate if you do. One of you will die.
That's a great way to keep them from fighting each other, though.
Yeah.
Can you imagine though, where like if I tell my twin like sons or daughters and they go to school and they just like have a meltdown, like why? And the teacher's like, well, what the hell's going on? Like, I can't touch him. My dad said one of us would die. Watch Time Cop, you idiot. I'm pretty sure I would be arrested.
Probably.
But it would be worth it for the first few years of their lives.
And then the psychiatric bills come in. It was like, maybe this wasn't the best idea.
Do you think I would get more respect in prison or less respect if I told them, like my cellmate, what are you here for? Oh, I told my kids that they weren't allowed to touch each other, else one of them would die via time cop rules.
That would be a moment in like a comedy or like a dark comedy movie where the guy tells him what he did, and he's like murdered multiple people and all that. What did you do? And you tell him that, and he goes, oh man, that's dark.
Right.
Like
Jesus Christ.
Jesus Christ.
I murdered this guy and I skinned his face off. What about you? Oh, I told my kids that if they touch each other, one of them would die. Jesus Christ, you're a psycho.
I don't have anything better. My only thing to make it better would be just improve the beginning and make it a little more drawn out than just dropped in the first 10 minutes. I would have them like
when you guys. I'm sorry, I just want to. When you guys suggest making things longer, I don't know what's wrong with you.
No, not make it longer.
This movie is an hour and 40 minutes, maybe even more. It is long enough.
It definitely.
My suggestion was more not so much make it longer, but instead of just making a 10-minute info dump, like have them. Oh, we have to go to Hong Kong, but when then they run into each other, like do that back to back. Where they hit each other and then spin around, sort of thing, is how they find out about each other. Like that is what I mean, more than, hey, that's your brother, your father's dead, he was killed by these two evil guys, let's go get him. Like just make that 10 minutes like an actual action scene.
Yeah. What if they thought they were each other's mirror and they're doing that like hand thing.
They walk by and come back real quick. I think this movie was done better with Beverly Hills Ninja in a way, right? Because you have Chris Farley, who's brothers with what's his name, Robin, I forget. He was in Mortal Kombat. He was Liu Kang.
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. I think it would have been better that way, where they do know each other, like the twins know each other, and one's this primp, proper, doesn't get his hands dirty, and the other one, obviously is more rough and tumble, where the one who's rough and tumble is always saving the other one. And then when, Alex is in trouble, somehow Chad is able to reach deep down and like goes off, and kung fu fighting plays in the background. And it, something sort of like that. But because you were right, and at one point it ceases to really be that they're brothers. It's just like they are brothers, but it doesn't mean anything. Like oh my God, I need to save my brother. Just like they're just there.
It doesn't matter that they're twins.
I mean, it doesn't even matter that they're brothers, really.
Sure.
Right? Because none of one, like, oh, that's my brother, or like I gotta protect my brother. It never comes to light that the one cares about the other.
Right. That's true too. Yeah. It's just they're just two guys, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. It's they have a mission and they happen to be brothers.
Yeah. The only part that a twin could have come in the factor is if they do that thing where one's older than the other by minutes or something like that, and that's why he would get more of the dividend than the other.
Be
something
hilarious.
like that. That's the only way twin even matters in this movie.
And then they fight to the death over the dividend.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see them fight to the death, really.
Or they could finally double team somebody.
Right, without fear of disappearing. What this came out before Time Cop, right?
No.
91, I think so.
91, yeah. Time Cop was 94.
I think that's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I am wrong.
I was gonna say if one came out before, if this had come out after Time Cop, then I would have liked to have seen a kind of Time Cop callback, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Like then maybe they go to high five and like, well, maybe not. Because then they can't touch.
Yeah, in terms of what I would do better, I've already mentioned doing kind of having the twin thing mean more than what it does in this movie. I mean, I guess they only had to pay an actor once. They didn't have to pay two actors. I think that's what this accomplished. And I guess it stroked Jean-Claude Van Damme's ego a little bit because apparently he likes playing dual roles. But yeah, no, I think what you guys had suggested more or less makes plenty of sense. So now, marry, fuck, kill. Alex, Chad, or Mr. Moon?
Oh. Yikes. Alex, Chad, or Mr. Oh, wow. That's tough. You can't fuck Mr. Moon because I'm pretty sure he fucks you. Right?
Yeah.
Sure.
And I don't think you could kill Mr. Moon because he would kill you. So I think Mr. Moon just kind of runs train on all of us.
Yeah, you have to marry him.
Right, and just hope that, well, but then you're subjecting yourself to just a lifetime of abuse, really, because he's not gentle in any sense of the form or sense of the word. I think if you can kill Mr. Moon, you kill Mr. Moon. Well, if you're going by Alex's imagination, you fuck Chad. And then you marry Alex, right? Because it looks like Chad he'll show you the world, man.
Well, that's why you marry him.
Take you on the ride of your. But then the sex grows stale, right? You want that one time fling with Chad, and he leaves you wanting more, I think.
But at the same time, Alex will probably beat you in a long-term
That's a good
relationship.
point. That's a good point, right? Because he'll get drunk if he thinks that you're banging someone else.
Yeah.
And
he's
he'll
jealous.
hit you.
He's the jealous type.
Yeah.
So. And
And then because then that leaves you with like explaining weird bruises on your eye, like, oh, I ran into the door.
Yeah.
This is the third time that you've run into the door, Dan. Yeah. Everything okay with Alex? It's fine, I promise. Alex is a good guy. I don't know. Yeah, I'm definitely killing Mr. Moon. I'm banging Chad and I'm marrying Alex, I think.
Okay.
They're both rich, so.
That's true. They got that sweet, sweet tunnel money.
That's true. they're tunnel baron.
Mark?
Yeah. So the only thing I'd really change is I would kill Alex, marry Mr. Moon, and fuck Chad because he would be soft and.
Wow. Interesting. I'm going the other way. Kill Mr. Moon, fucking Alex for one night stand, and I'm marrying Chad.
Okay. Yeah, I think your way is the right way. But
it might be the right answer.
Yeah, but I think again, just by going by what Alex thinks, I want that one time. I don't know if I can handle it more than once.
Everything's always just a big production where you're just like, I just kind of really need a hand job right now.
Right. Yeah, I don't need to be, plastered against the wall and bent over a barrel showing the 50 states. I just, I want something nice and tender. Not nice and tender. I just want something easy.
Yeah.
I feel like with him it'll be he can't get off unless it's something crazy. Like he's got to be doing like holding me up from, all crazy ways. I don't need that. He probably has a sex swing in his room or something. I don't want that. Just put me on the bed. I'm easygoing. I will consider the kitchen counter. That's as far as I'll go.
Where we know he can do splits on.
Exactly, yeah. And I'm sure he wants to do that at one point. You know, like, come on, man, let's just.
All right.
So
you'll put up with an abusive partner in terms of just like pretty easy sex.
Right, and then after a while, I don't think he's gonna want it very much. In these podcasts, I've revealed a weird amount of my like what goes on in my head, I guess. It's very strange. It's very strange how my mind opens up with these things, because I know it's fake, people. All right, it's fake. It's never gonna happen. I'm never gonna bang Jean-Claude Van Damme. All right. That's why I can go this crazy. I don't want people thinking like, Jesus Christ, Dan has really like contemplated how Jean-Claude Van Damme would go to town on him, you know. I appreciate that you don't use these sections in like our posts, because then my family members would see it and be like, okay, maybe we don't talk to Dan for a while. So far, Jen hasn't seen it. I'm lucky.
Well, I guess that means that she's not listening.
That's true. Or I just tell her when to stop. Don't listen to the last 10 to 15 minutes.
All right, so I guess that's it.
Yeah.
Anything else? Want to play your shit?
Yeah. Diaquino122 on Twitter. Follow me there. We'll have some fun. We'll have some laughs. We'll cry. At Stranger Damies for the Twitter for our Real Play D&D. We're also on Instagram, and same thing at Stranger Damies. Love talking to all of the D&D community on there. Bunch of great people. Follow a lot of other good D&D podcasts. So if you're looking for another Real Play D&D podcast, go on there. We have a ton of friends on there. And yeah, that's it from me.
Yeah. So Stranger Damies airs every Wednesday. Episode posted yesterday is the first of a new session. Which these next 4 episodes, I think, is a good start to our next arc of the campaign. So I'm looking forward to everyone out there hearing it. And then we have the Game Vault Pod cast had an episode on Monday. We talked about our favorite controllers. We picked a new thing for the Retro Roulette. So be sure to listen to that. You can listen to all of them on Twitter, iTunes, Google Play, anywhere you get your podcast. We also have a Twitch channel for Game Vault Pod. You can go there, and we stream about 4 or 5 days a week. So yeah, that's basically why I don't watch a lot of movies. Yeah, go check us out there. And the Twitters are at Stranger Damies and at Game Vault Pod. So yeah, check us out on the social medias.
All right. Yes, and this is They Called This a Movie. You can find us at theycalledthisamovie.podbean.com, and anywhere you get your podcast, just search for They Called This a Movie. We should pop right up. We're the Main Damie at themaindamie.com, and on all social media platforms at the Main Damie. I'll just search for that. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, the Main Damie, and we'll be there. We're also a proud member of Geek Vibes Nation. gvnation.com is the main website, and Geek Vibes Nation on all social media and podcast streaming apps. They got a bunch of great shows. Dan mentioned the Top 10 with Tia. They've got another bunch of great shows that network has. Something for everyone. Comic stuff, TV stuff, you name it, they have it. And I am at AntDelVec on Twitter. You can find me there. And that's my personal one. But the Main Damie, if you want to get us in contact with us, Twitter's the best way. But you can also hit us up at themaindamie@gmail.com. Suggest a movie. Suggest a question. If you have any questions you want to have us raise at the top of the show or something like that, feel free to ask. And I think that's going to wrap it up. The director of, what a double impact, that's the name of this movie, is Sheldon Leach. So for Dan Aquino and Mark Miners, this is Anthony Del. Does it call you Miners? I think
almost. It's fine. We'll go with it.
Dan Aquino and Mark Myers. This is Anthony Del Vecchio telling Sheldon Leach to go fuck himself.